What's up, world? Welcome back to another episode of Just Grow It, the podcast. I'm your host, Big City Gardener, and today we are talking about what to plant in March. All right, so if you are not aware, I have started something on YouTube that I would love for everybody to go check out, and it is called The Great Grow Along. So in this Great Grow Along, we're seeing how much food we can actually produce in my urban garden. So every single month, I'll be telling you what I'm planting. And if you happen to live in Zone 9, these are things that you can plant also. So we'll talk about what I'm planting and when is the best time to start seeds or transplants that month. I divide the month in half, and then I talk about what are the best things to plant at the beginning of the month versus the end of the month. And then I talk about what else can be planted during the beginning or the end of the month. Now, the things that I list off first, those are actually best suited to be planted early in the month. Now, within this Great Grow Along, we're going to be talking about what are the best things that we can be planting. So with this, we're going to be talking about whether you should be planting your seeds inside versus outdoors, or whether you should be transplanting some seedlings that you either purchased from a nursery or have already started into your garden. Now, remember, I'm not a weatherman. So I can't tell you when we'll have cold fronts coming through, excessive amounts of rain, or excessive amounts of heat. What I can do is tell you that based off my years of growing, I have come up with my own sort of planting calendar that I stick to. And I figured I might as well just share it with the world. Now, please remember, everywhere has their own microclimates. Just because we're both in growing zone 9B, that does not mean that what I can do down here in Texas relates to what you can do up there in Sacramento or anything like that. Do not take this as the ultimate advice, all right? Again, I'm just sharing with you what has worked for me, and maybe it will work for you as well. Also, you don't have to be in Zone 9 to get benefit from these episodes. Matter of fact, if you're in a growing zone, let's say 8 or below, what you can do with this information is kind of internalize it and use it to start your own seed starting clock, right? So if I'm talking about planting tomatoes out here in March, you may not plant tomatoes where you live until April or May, but hearing me talk about it can kind of spark that idea in your head and remind you, hey, I need to go ahead and get my seeds started. Anyway, that's enough of an explanation for now. Let's get into it and let's talk about what are the best things to plant during the first half of March. First, we have arugula, one of my favorite leafy greens because it has a little bit of flavor to it. You can grow arugula by planting it in rows and leaving about 4-inch spacing in between the plants. Or you can do what I like to do, which is just designate a specific area of my garden bed for lettuce and other leafy greens. Then I just grab the seeds and kind of broadcast or spread them all over the soil. Create my own sort of salad mix right there in the bed. If you do it that way, you don't have to worry about spacing or anything like that. The next thing that you could plant right now in March is corn. Now, corn has a pretty short window. You can only plant corn in March into the beginning of April, but we're not going to talk about April in this episode. We're going to stick to March. So if you're looking to grow corn, make sure you get it planted in March. Next, we have something called endive. If you're going to grow endive, you should be seeding it directly in your garden right now, early March. After that, we have kale. It's a little bit too late to be direct seeding our kale into the garden or even starting kale seedlings inside. So if you want to still have kale in your garden, you're going to have to head out to your favorite local nursery and purchase some kale transplants. If you decide to grow kale in your garden, please grow dino kale at least once. It's just because it's my favorite, so I want to recommend it to everybody. Next, we have lettuce. We can only plant lettuce for this entire month. So early in the month, it's still a great time to get your lettuce seeds planted. Next, we have mint. If you know me, then you know I'm a big fan of mint. But you also know that I tell you, do not plant mint in your garden because it will take over. After that, we have mustard greens. This is the last time that you're going to be able to add mustard greens to your garden. So if you want to, head out to the nursery and purchase some mustard green transplants. Next, we have peppers. Now, I personally don't plant my peppers this early in March. As a matter of fact, I don't plant my peppers in the garden until the first week of April. But according to my notes, March is a good time to plant peppers. The only thing I worry about when it comes to planting peppers in March is that we have the occasional cool spell come through, and I want to avoid exposing my peppers to cooler temperatures. So that's why I like to hold off until March. But if you're at your favorite local nursery and you see the pepper transplants and you just can't hold off until March, feel free to go ahead and purchase them now. But I would recommend waiting until the second half of March at the earliest to plant your peppers out in the garden. Next, we have things like radishes. This is the last month to get radishes in your garden. So if you're looking to grow this fast maturing crop that can go from seed to harvest in around 30 days, make sure you get your radishes planted early in March. After that, we have sunflowers. You can plant sunflowers from March until May. So what I like to do is to get some sunflowers in my garden every month. Again, in my opinion, it's a little bit too early to plant sunflowers in early March. I would stick to late March before I put these out in the garden. You can directly seed the sunflowers into your garden, or you can start them as transplants in 4-inch pots before it is time to plant them out in your garden. Next, we have sweet potatoes. That's right, it is time to start growing your sweet potato slips. Now, depending on how many sweet potato slips you plan on growing, it can take over 4 weeks, and that's why I recommend getting started now. If you start your sweet potato slips in March, you can have them ready to go by April when it is warm enough in the garden to transplant them out there. If you don't know how to grow sweet potato slips, then you can head over to the Big City Gardener YouTube channel and check out a couple of the different videos I have on growing sweet potatoes there. Finally, we have watermelon. Now, if you have a lot of space in your garden or you have an extremely strong trellis set up, then you should try growing watermelon. I personally don't have a lot of space in my urban garden, so I don't grow watermelons very often. But every time I do, I always ask myself, why don't I do this more often? If I end up having my front garden put together before the end of March, then I'll go ahead and plant some watermelons up there. Now let's talk about what are the best things to plant during late March or the second half of March. You'll notice that a lot of the plants are the same, but you'll also notice a few differences. Now, while it may not seem like it, there is a big temperature difference between the beginning of the month and the end of the month, especially in March. Because in March, spring is just starting. The beginning half of the month tends to be a little bit cooler and a little bit wetter. The second half of the month is when it starts to warm up and our soil has had enough time to reach optimal temperatures for a lot of different things that we plan on growing. During late March is still the best time to plant arugula. Now, during late March is when we can start planting some of our bush beans or even our pole beans. Late March is one of the best times to get your chili pepper transplants into the garden. But again, I personally like to wait until April to get my chili peppers or my sweet peppers out there in the garden. I want to make sure that the soil temperatures are above 70 degrees and that we no longer have any nighttime temperatures in the 50s. You can still plant corn and lettuce in your garden, but remember your window is starting to shrink. So make sure if you want to grow these things, you get them planted during their optimal times. You can still plant things like mint, mustard, your regular pepper transplants, and this is the last chance you have to plant radishes for this warm season. If you wait until April to plant your radishes, it's going to be a little bit too warm. And what ends up happening is you're going to grow smaller radishes than you normally would. If that's not a problem to you, then feel free to plant your radishes in April. But we're still talking about March in this episode. Now, the end of March is the best time to get your squash plants in the ground. This includes summer squash, pumpkins, and winter squash. Just remember, if you plant summer squash early in the spring, you can try to get a harvest before the squash vine borer comes through. If you're not familiar with what the squash vine borer is, or you want to learn some ways on how you can prevent the squash vine borer, then make sure you check out the episode on squash vine borers. I hate those things. As a matter of fact, they're one of the main reasons why I do not grow summer squash in the spring. I actually wait until the fall to grow them. But we'll talk about that in the squash episode. Now, at the end of the month, you can still plant your sweet potato slips, your sunflowers, and your watermelons. Now, those are the best crops that you should be planting all throughout the month of March. Now, just because they're the best crops, that does not mean that they are the only things that you should be planting. Now we're going to talk about some other plants that are suitable to grow during this time. March is the time when you should be starting your basil seedlings indoors. Also, if you're feeling lucky, you can try planting some basil transplants outdoors right now. I don't personally recommend it because we still have days where the temperatures are in the 50s, and basil is an herb that loves warm temperatures. As a matter of fact, the hotter the better. That's one reason why I hold off until April before planting my basil transplants out in the garden. Another thing that you can grow early in the month are beets. While February was the best time to plant your beets, as long as you get the beets in the ground during the first half of March, there's still a good chance that you could have a great harvest. Early in the month, you can still plant things like horseradish. You could grow kohlrabi from seed. You can even still plant multiplying onions or walking onions. March is a phenomenal time to plant your herb garden. This includes things like rosemary, oregano, and thyme. If we're having an unusually warm winter, which leads to a warm spring, then you can go ahead and get your cucumbers in the ground during March. But I again prefer holding off on planting cucumbers until early April or at least the end of March. You can still grow things like turnips, but March is the last month when you're going to be able to plant them. And finally, if you're feeling lucky, you can go ahead and transplant your eggplants out into the garden. Again, I like to hold off until April, but you get the picture. If it's already warmed up where you live and the soil temperatures are already above 70 degrees and we no longer have any cool night temperatures, then feel free, go ahead and plant things like eggplants and chili peppers out into your garden. That is everything that you can plant during the month of March if you happen to live in Zone 9. If you're looking for tips on how to grow any of these crops, then stay tuned to Just Grow It the podcast. We will have shows and episodes with information on how to grow all of my favorite summer and spring crops. That's it for this episode of Just Grow It the podcast. But before I can let you go, I do have an ask. I have a goal of turning this into a top 10 podcast, and I would really appreciate it if you guys could share this episode or leave me a 5-star review and comment wherever you listen to podcasts. It really means a lot, and it will help catapult this show up the rankings. All I'm trying to do is share some of this plant love. Anyway, it's springtime, and that means it's time for all of us to go outside and just grow it. Until next time, you guys take it easy. Before I let you go, I need you to do more than one thing. First, I need you to like, comment, subscribe to the podcast. Second, I need you to tell a friend or two about the show if you enjoyed it. And if you have anybody you think I need to talk to, I should interview, send the name over, put it in the comments, or send me an email, igrow@BigCityGardener. And check me out, man, on Instagram and on all social media platforms, Big City Gardener. We out. Oh, almost forgot. Just grow it.